Hi there, I'm Holly McDonald with the Costa Mesa Pod, where we discuss all things concerning the lifestyle, businesses, and activities that make Costa Mesa and our area such a great place to live. Today I have Andrew with me of Goosehead Insurance, and Andrew is just a wealth of information and could talk about insurance all day. No joke. Andrew, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Holly. Very appreciative.
Yeah, so let's start off with a curveball. You may have heard this before, but some people say insurance is a scam. What do you have to say to that?
My argument is always this. I always look at it from the perspective of any type of insurance, regardless if you're going from home insurance to auto insurance to health insurance to life insurance, right? The whole point of insurance and the real way that it works is that everybody is pooling their risk, meaning everybody is paying a set premium, even though they haven't had a claim. And what happens is when one person out of a group of 100 who are paying for insurance, when that one person does have a claim, they're getting paid out not because of the money they've been paying into it, but because of the combined amount that all 100 people have been paying into insurance. So in the sense, until you use insurance, it's a scam. But the moment you need it and you have it, it doesn't turn out to be a scam and you want it to work. So that's something I always try to put the pressure on for any of my customers, is to realize in the event that it's good to know you have insurance once something occurs, a curveball, your house burns down, you get in a car accident. You want to make sure after the fact you have insurance, not debating, do I have insurance once everything's kind of gone wrong.
Yeah, and so I mean, there has been so much going on with insurance, especially in the last few years here in California. I know that for some people, their logical line of thinking would be like, okay, I have an issue with my house, right? I'm going to call insurance. What do you have to say to that? Especially taking into consideration that people, when they buy and sell homes, insurance is something that most people are going to need. Like the lender is going to require it. What considerations should people make if they're thinking about calling in an insurance claim?
Yeah, so I think the main focus that people are going to want to do is really evaluate, and even in this, I think it starts the claim process before you even buy insurance. Reason why I say that is because the moment you decide when you buy a policy what your deductible is, what the limits you're choosing. If you choose, I want a $10,000 deductible because I want to pay the lowest amount of premium possible. You have to remember that when the event comes of a claim, you have to pay $10,000 up front. And so you have to remember, in the event of today, if you have a claim and you realize, okay, this claim is going to cost $7,500 to fix, but I have a $10,000 deductible, there's really no need to notify insurance because regardless, you'd be paying up to $10,000 anyway. All that would end up being is allowing the insurance company to be aware that you had a claim, that the insurance company didn't pay out, and that you have to take out of pocket, and can lead to higher renewal rates going forward because you have a claim on your record. So it is something that I believe taking into consideration when buying an insurance policy of when you are in the middle of a claim, how do you want it to deal with it? If you pick a lower deductible and you pick a $2,000 deductible, you realize less out of pocket, but more in premium. So it's a vice versa. The higher deductible you go, the lower the premium, the lower the deductible, the higher the premium. And it's something I think everybody has to be comfortable with on a financial aspect and understanding what they want to do when the circumstance happens and you have to deal with a claim.
Yeah, so like what would you suggest, say in the circumstance like you're on vacation and you come home and there's been a flood, okay? So in that case, like there's an issue that has to be resolved. You probably want to call insurance right away, but you're not really sure of the extent of the damage. Say you have a high deductible. What is should your first call be to insurance? Should it be to get an estimate? Should it be like how do you handle that sort of scenario?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is going to be, and this is a great question, and I'll put it from this perspective. We're going to go from understanding that a home insurance policy will never cover flood and earthquake. Flood and earthquake are two separate perils that are an additional policy you would buy. So in the event, let's say for sure you have a flood, which is a natural disaster that occurs because water hits a certain limit, and that's usually due to rain, to a dam breaks down, or a pond overfills during a heavy raining season. That's something you want to realize, okay, how did the claim occur? If it was a water pipe that blew up underneath your toilet in
Yeah.
your house, that's not a flood. That would go in your home insurance policy. And that's something I think it's understanding the extent of it and wanting to get a third party review of saying, okay, this is what you're probably going to have to pay out of pocket. Should we fix this dilemma? Now, in the event that you have had an actual flood or an actual flood where that was something where you're not the only house impacted, that is something you'd most likely want to notify your insurance carrier because it's not only going to be you, but also the surrounding areas, and then most likely your front yard, your backyard, your neighbors, and the whole neighborhood would kind of be in a detrimental aspect.
I'm so glad you made that distinction because yes, flood is separate, fire is separate, earthquake is separate. Is that all? That's all true, correct?
Yes, so fire is only separate on certain circumstances, meaning that in certain high fire zones, some what we saw last year in January, Altadena, Pasadena, if you're on the coast of Malibu, if you're in these high wildfire desert areas, that's at the point where insurance companies kind of segment your zip code into allowing only certain coverages for homes within that zip code. And
Mhm.
that ends up being where they'll cut out fire insurance and send that straight to what is the California Fair Plan. And having the state insurance insure for fire in high wildfire risk areas where a fire is more likely, and insurance companies would rather not insure it because it's more likely to happen. And if it's more likely to happen, they're most likely to take, the damage from it. So they'll break that apart, but mostly only in high wildfire areas. On a standard homeowners insurance policy, fire is included.
Awesome. Yeah, that is really good to know. I know obviously in real estate, we see that when people are buying homes, anybody getting a loan, the lender is going to require insurance. And if you're buying cash, it's up to you. But again, you should obviously weigh the pros and cons of it. But
Yes.
what you said before about even like calling in and potentially having just a claim on your record, even if it wasn't paid out, we're seeing that it can actually impact the ability of the buyer of a home to get insurance, and it's following sellers. So how does that work?
Yeah, so that's actually really interesting. And I'm actually seeing that more and more now because what we're finding is, and I'll even use an example that I had within the last 24 hours. We had a client who's a first time home buyer buying a home. I believe it was in Jurupa Valley, desert area. And she's first time home buyer, never had a home. We're going a homeowner's insurance policy for her on this new home that she's looking to buy, and ended up being that a $15,000 claim that she made on a renter's insurance policy in a prior apartment she lived in was popping up and affecting her home insurance rate. And she had a prior claim due to theft and vandalism of somebody breaking in and stealing her stuff. And so that claim, even though it had nothing to do with the new property, follows this client forward as she continues to get home insurance on a new property and going forward in the years to come. So it's quite interesting that the insurance company is not only looking at your property as a risk, but you as a person, very similar to like auto insurance. And they're looking at, are you driving a Ferrari? Are you driving a Honda? Also, too, are you someone who has DUIs? Speeding tickets? Are you someone who has a clean driving record? So it's coming into hand where now the person is being evaluated and no longer just the home, which a lot of people think it's just my home. Okay, the home is what's costing me the most. A lot of times it's both, and it comes into conjunction between the two.
Yeah, well, and then I can imagine that if in the instance of somebody that has had a really high claim history, if their insurance premium is projected to be much higher than a lender would have qualified them for based on, this is the average insurance, amount that we would expect you to pay. If it's hundreds of dollars more a month, that could actually knock you out of even being qualified for the property.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that more and more. And even as we've worked together, Holly, as you're looking at a home, you want to look at insurance rates too. You may be looking at a home and thinking, oh, I can fit this mortgage into my budget. This works. Okay, what does the home insurance rates look like? It's something you have to take into consideration, just like utilities, electrical, trash, HOA fees. It's something you have to take into consideration and have the notion that going forward, to be honest, either rates are going to stabilize and stay consistently to where they are now, or they're going to go up. I don't see in the future rates
They're
coming
going down.
down and being more competitive. Yeah, and especially living in Southern California, how the more beautiful the area, the more you're being upcharged for it. So, everybody has to take into consideration the luxury tax in that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is really eye-opening. I think one of the first things I tell buyers to do, even sometimes before we write the offer, is to take into consideration, like you should talk to Andrew. You should find out what the insurance looks like, especially if it's like a high fire zone. But certainly if their offer is accepted, it's like, okay, do your deposit and check insurance. Like those are the first two things, because like doing insurance quotes now, you can tell us like they require a lot more information. It's not as basic as it used to be.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of things do people need to even like answer about the property to get a proper quote?
Yeah, I say the big four pillars of any type of home insurance policy, it's really going to come down to what does the roofing look like, the electrical system, the plumbing, and the HVAC. One of the big aspects that these insurance companies are really focusing on is that these four items have been updated within the last 30 years to sometimes 25 years, but every insurance company can kind of change what the risk appetite looks like. And so it's always usually between 25 and 30 years. Anything past that, it really ends up being an issue where the insurance company wants an update to those systems if it passes that 25 to 30-year mark. And that's not even taking into consideration how old the home is. If the home was built in 1950, but the electrical system, the HVAC was updated within the last 30 years, they can still ding you because just the home is old. And so that could lead to more potential claim issues later on. But those are the main four pillars. It's going to be the roofing, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC.
Yeah, I know that last year I had a buyer who purchased a property that had a wood shingle roof, and that was very challenging as far as insurance went. It was something that everybody kind of knew going in, like this could be a real challenge to get insurance for. So, I mean, fortunately, Goosehead was able to help, but that was something where, I know that became a really big thing last year too, especially after the fires.
Absolutely. And then it's also something too, I think it's always fun to look at it from a dating perspective, right? Insurance companies have certain criteria. They have red flags, right? As the kids call it, right? They have certain red flags, the insurance companies do, and then the homes do as well. So with everything, it's finding the right insurance carrier for the right home, because not all homes fit in the appetite for an insurance carrier, just like not everyone works with everyone. So it really comes down to like a dating game of, okay, who's willing to take this risk? Who's willing to take this home? What are their red flags? Their home, I mean, their roofing, electrical, their plumbing. Do they have a slab build? Is there a basement underneath? Is there an attic? Is it a detached garage, attached? Do they have an ADU in the back? And so now what we're seeing is it's not just the home insurance is coming into play, but also too is people are starting to add ADUs, especially out here in Orange County. You add ADU to the background, your property then is starting to generate money because you have a front house which you live in, and then you have an ADU where you're renting it out in the back and you're generating revenue from with a non-owner that's living on a property that you own. So that becomes another dilemma with insurance as well. And some insurance companies will just block you out if you do that. Some insurance companies love that. Some insurance companies will have to split you up. So you have to buy one home insurance for your ADU, one home insurance for your front house.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask a little bit about that because I feel like it used to be that people would talk about bundling, right? Like, oh, I've got my health insurance, I got my car insurance, I'll just go to them for my home insurance. But it seems like that has become less of an option since so many insurance companies are, being more restrictive or leaving the area. One thing with you is like you are an insurance broker, so you're able to do a lot more of that shopping for people. But can you kind of explain, this is kind of 101, but what is the distinction between an insurance broker versus just going to your insurance company, and is bundling even a thing?
Yeah, so absolutely. So the one main focus, and this is specifically for the Goosehead franchise and its overall capabilities, is that we're an independent brokerage. What that means is, to be honest, we're the middleman. So you being a client, for example, would come to me and I would be able to get your address, get some basic information, and I'd be able to shop around your coverage across a variety of like 30 different insurance carriers. Most of the times we'll get half of those will decline. The other 15 will say there's some contingencies. One may say, oh, we're ready for a quote, ready to go. And that'll make the process easier and allow you the convenience of not having to go and shop around. And a caveat to that is what we'll have is some people go direct to market, meaning some people will go online, they'll maybe go to Geico and they'll just automatically quote through Geico without a middleman, without a broker, and fill out the information on their own. Caveat was doing that. Sometimes rates can be more competitive, but the understanding that you may not know what coverages you're looking to buy, what coverages you need, and what is compliant with what your mortgage is requiring. A big aspect of what I do too is reminding people that their replacement cost estimate on their home is required because your limits have to exceed the replacement cost of the home to ensure you're compliant with the mortgage. And so if you don't know that and you're just quoting directly, you may not get the right number and then you won't qualify for your mortgage. So that's something that's really important to understand, that working with someone who knows it like me can really make the mortgage process a lot easier in regards to insurance. And when it comes to the multi-policy discount, what insurance carriers tend to do when they have multiple product lines, one of those product lines would be home, auto, and there's also dwelling insurance. Mercury allows a great package premium policy where they also allow for a heavy discount if you have multiple product lines with the same insurance company. So if you do your home, your auto, and if you have a landlord insurance policy all through Mercury, they provide a quite substantial discount across all three, which makes saving money and the process of claims easier.
Yeah, I bet it does help to have everything in one place when you can, but it just seems like there's less companies out there right
Yes,
now that in our area you can do that with. So that's really good to know, though.
absolutely.
I have also heard of people going and getting their quotes for their insurance while they're in escrow, like doing their due diligence, and then the insurance company does like a drive-by, and then all of a sudden they decline because like the roof doesn't look up to par or whatnot. Have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen a lot of that actually. And then we've also seen the issue where a lot of insurance companies too are requiring an inspection within 30 to 60 days. Some will require a virtual inspection where you go through an application that's monitored by the insurance company and you go around, you take a picture of your electrical box, your HVAC, your roof, your front yard, and you do it all on your own. Where some insurance companies are requiring, we're going to send somebody out, they charge the client for it, of course, and that inspector will come over, review all the factors of the home, and get back to you probably within 15 to 30 days after the inspection, letting you know if you still have coverage or if they're looking to non-renew you due to whatever unforeseen circumstance they find on the home. So that is becoming more prevalent.
Well, that's like scary and annoying, right? Because you think you're all set, and then you have to scramble to find something new. You kind of have a gun to your head because your lender is going to require it too. There's like a lender forced insurance, isn't there? Is that something that
Yes,
happens?
yes, I've seen that, and that can be substantially quite more expensive than if you were to go out to the open market and shop it yourself. Because again, I believe the mortgage company, when they force that insurance, it's the bare minimum that's compliant that's needed for the mortgage, but it also comes at a higher cost.
Yeah, that sucks. Otherwise, your alternative is just like if say it's your roof that's called out, it's get a new roof, right? Basically.
Exactly.
Dang,
Yeah.
not fun. All these
Yeah.
things you really have to be aware of. And I think that that is also just kind of going back to real estate, something to give buyers some education on when they're negotiating, when they're buying a house, like what things are going to potentially come up, what contingencies might happen within that 30 to 60 days, and which insurance companies are going to be like a little bit, I don't know, easier to deal with. You probably have more
Correct.
insight on that, but I
Yeah.
guess those are things people could reach out to you and talk to you about directly so we don't spill all the beans here.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like slander anybody. But Andrew, you are again such a wealth of information. I know you like live, breathe, and sleep and eat insurance,
Yes,
but
exactly.
you have all the info. You're super responsive and helpful. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you and find out more, how can they reach you?
Absolutely. So they can reach me at my phone number. It's 714-477-6957, or at my email, andrew.ramos@goosehead.com.
And what is your Instagram? You have a great one.
Yes, it's goosehead_all_stars.
Yes. Awesome. Andrew, thank you so much for all of the information. Anybody, if you receive a notice that your insurance is going to be suspended or your rates are going up or anything, or you just want to check to see if like there's money that could be saved, Andrew can do a check for you. It's complimentary, and see if there are any options out there that can help you out.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Holly.
All right, thank you. Bye.